want to go ahead and
Sure.
start?
Hi, I'm Catherine Owens. I'm the general manager here for the book loft. We are delighted that you came out. Thank you so much. With further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Elise and let her do her thing.
Okay. I am, when Connor gets set up.
Very good. You can
He's
ignore
filming a little bit for me. I started kind of this journey, and it's been a long journey, at the age of 40. I like to talk about this because a lot of times, you know, gray hair, older than whatever, 50, you don't get so much attention. I got my PhD at the age of 40 in wildlife biology, and I spent 15 years or so working with wildlife, with private landowners, and I actually did a lot of wildlife surveys down around Lake Okeechobee in the sugarcane fields. So snakes and birds.
That's exactly what I
And,
thought, snake.
yeah, and fish, but mostly birds, and I really enjoyed the birds. But one of the things that I always enjoyed was, you know, finding out why things are where they are and looking at the natural history of things. After that, my husband and I started making soap. We wanted to start a little private business, and it was completely natural, and I fell in love with essential oils. The smell of rose and the smell of lavender, you know, mandarin, all of those wonderful smells. And so I wanted to find out more about them, where they came from, why maybe rose from Turkey smell different than rose from Bulgaria. Mandarin green is different than mandarin red. It's just the ripening process in the peel. And so I started looking into that, and then I started teaching classes and doing events. And one of the things I would say to my students in the class, I would open up a little bottle of jasmine grandiflorum, and it's really diffusive. It really can fill a room. And then I would say, you know, jasmine doesn't make that fragrance for us. It makes it for the moths. It doesn't need to attract us. We like it, you know, but the moths are what pollinate the jasmine. And because plants are stationary, they can't go find, you know, somebody to pollinate with and reproduce. The moth is that intermediary. And moths are so amazing. And these are the little hummingbird moths that you can see in your gardens at night, or sphinx moths. And they really key in. They're born with an innate sense in their antenna that they recognize some of the constituents of jasmine aroma. And then they learn as they go that, oh, this is really good. And so they follow that scent plume or that trail to find the jasmine. And that relationship between jasmine and moth has produced one of the most valued perfumery ingredients we have. And it's the moth saying, I like this pretty perfumey fragrance, and the flower saying, I need to make it more perfumey, or you know, if the flower does this, the moths respond better. So there's that relationship there. And so I would talk about that with my students, and you could see a little bit of an aha moment. And so I started researching, why does sandalwood smell so good? What does lavender do with its fragrance? And the other part of my activity as a perfumer was learning the fragrance. When you make a perfume, you have to remember lavender from France smells different than lavender from Bulgaria. You have to remember what scented geranium smells like. And so I would take notes and try to describe fragrance. And between that and my natural history, there was a book there ready to come out. And I just feel really fortunate that it was published and that you're here to listen to me talk about it. I really like being interactive, so please don't hesitate. If you have a question or if I say something that you wonder about, please let me know. What I think I'll do is kind of structure tonight around perfume construction. How many of you wear perfume? Okay. I think a lot of people who come to the book come for the natural history and it's been called an ethnobotanical kind of work, because I talk a lot about the history with people and how humans have, whether it's exploring for spices or cultivating roses or just frankincense has a long history in the Arabian Peninsula. And so that became part of my story as well. If I'm going to talk about, I need a timekeeper, if you'll just let me know as we get to, if I'm going to talk about perfume notes, one of the most common ones are the citruses. And perfumes are constructed the way they are because of volatility of the fragrance. The chemicals that a plant puts out are called volatile organic chemicals, or VOCs. Sometimes you see them in the news as a bad thing, because too much, is dangerous. These are chemicals. But a perfumer will pay attention to the evaporative volatility of the different ingredients and separate them into what we call top notes and heart notes and base notes. The top notes evaporate more quickly. They're usually brighter. They're happy. They give you this really intriguing opening to a perfume. Usually it's orange, bergamot. I brought some yellow mandarin today for you to sniff. And they all, when you peel an orange, you get that little burst and it makes you feel kind of happy, even if it's early in the morning. They give you that opening, but then they're gone pretty quick. And what they do then is make way for what's called the heart of a perfume, which is usually the florals, the rich, beautiful, luxurious florals like rose and jasmine. Violet, all the nice florals. They tend to, you get this progression, the top notes and then the florals bloom and come to your nose, and you begin to smell those, and those really give the body and the beauty of a perfume. And then you have your base notes, which are usually the woods, like sandalwood or frankincense is a resin, but it is often used as a base note or kind of to accent a heart note. Agarwood or oud has been really popular in perfumes. It's a resin. It's got a very kind of poopy, barnyardy, woody smell. Why would we do that in a perfume? It makes it interesting. You've got the beauty and the beast, kind of. You've got jasmine is gorgeous by itself, but if you add a little bit of interest, a little bit of mystery, it makes it kind of something that you might be more interested in, more appeal. And then the base notes are, I'm talking about those. They tend to linger on your skin. They might be musk notes, they might be wood notes. There are some resins like labdanum, which comes from a Mediterranean plant, that myrrh maybe, that anchor and secure and help the perfume notes to last longer. If you're buying a commercial perfume off, the department store counter, most of those perfume notes are going to be synthetic. Most of them are made from turpentine or paper pulp waste. It's all chemicals. They're all the same thing. They're organic chemicals. They have a carbon base. And if you switch the arrangement of the molecules around, you get the smell of lemon or you'll get the smell of lavender, floral lavender, or, you know, these are the terpenes. How many have heard the word terpene? Anymore, if you do a terpene search on Google, what do you get? Marijuana. It's all about the terpenes. That there is some relationship between that impact of the aroma and the scents that you're getting, and I always say the wrong word, not high. You're getting that marijuana effect. It's not a hallucinogen, it's just euphoric. And that smell is tied to the feeling that you get. And I just totally lost my train of thought. So you've got these little terpenes, and they're usually what are the top notes. And then in a department store perfume, instead of having a jasmine as the moth and the jasmine make it, which may have 300 different little modifier chemicals that make that really complex scent, commercial perfumers or industrial have formulas, and they can't do 300, but they can find, you know, one that gives the really jasmine, and they might modify it with a softer violet. I don't know. I don't do that. I use the real jasmine, and then I have to figure out how to blend that, because it's a little more tricky when you've got, you know, the more complex to kind of build a perfume with. Now, you don't have to close your eyes, but it helps. Picture the detergent aisle in a department store, walking down Walmart. What's that smell? You recognize it, right? You could close your eyes and somebody would put you there and you'd know you were in the detergent oil aisle. That's the synthetic musk. And instead of being the musk that is produced by animals or whales, it's what's called a clean musk, a white musk. It's a big chemical. They have made it to reproduce what the musk deer and the beaver and the civet and the whale produce. And because it's a big molecule, it lasts and lasts and lasts. And early on, perfumers got kind of in trouble because they lasted in the water. And, you know, we're impacting the rivers, and so there have been a number of steps in evolution to keep that white musk, because marketing has associated that so strongly with the feeling of clean. You know, you watch TV and you see and I was at a perfume conference in July, and one of the speakers came up with a towel, and he had a couple, and he handed them around, and he said, "Can you tell me if this towel is clean?" What do you think everybody did? They smelled it. They didn't look at it, they smelled it. That's become a really powerful association, and most perfumes have some sort of a musky base. If you smell them, you can recognize them, and if you get that scent strip at the store and take it home and put it away, you know, the next day, it still smells. Not so much with naturals. Some will last, but the thing that natural perfumers will tell you is, you know, 3 or 4 hours, you know, and then you can have the joy of putting it on again. And it shouldn't fill up an elevator. It should be something that's, you know, someone comes close enough to give you a hug, or, you know, is a little more intimate, so it's not impacting everybody around you. Questions? Perfumes? Ingredients? Yes?
So the reason why I stopped wearing perfume was because people would be allergic.
Mm.
And so is that because it was synthetic that caused the allergic reaction to other people?
Generally, yeah. Because if you think about the mindset of a company that's making a perfume, they want it to have impact. They want it to last. You know, they want it to say, you know, somebody used me and here I am. And that too much exposure, like on an elevator or whatever, really can cause a headache or allergic reactions. Sometimes it's more headachy kind of. This is a little bit kind of my impression. Those are single chemicals, as I said, created to be high impact. If they're high impact, you don't have to use as much. So you're saving money on your juice that goes in the perfume bottle. Essential oils, almost always, and extractions are more complex in the molecules that are in there. And in some ways it mutes the effect. I'm not saying you won't get allergic from, you know, a natural perfume, because you could. They're all chemicals. They're all the same chemicals. It's just how they're put together and where they come from. Yeah.
I quit wearing perfume, which I liked a lot, because I am allergic. I developed asthma. And a lot of times flowers don't bother me, but perfumes do.
Yeah.
And that's because they're not maybe the real thing.
I think so. I think so. And you don't know what goes into a commercial perfume. They legally have the ability to just say fragrance. They will not say, because it's, you know, it's my art. It's proprietary. What they do have to do is sometimes list specific allergens. So if you look at a lotion or a perfume, it might say geraniol or linalool, but that's more skin reaction.
Yeah, it's not. Well, I was wondering because my husband here was this afternoon pointing out that it's all chemical. They're chemicals. So, but the chemicals would be different in the commercial ones, or it was just that they used a lot more of one rather than subtleties.
Yeah, and they like I said, they look more for high impact. If you have, for example, you know, the mandarin over there, you'll smell it and I'll, you know, use it and it'll be around the room and then it's gone. You know, if a commercial perfumer, industrial, you know, when you make a perfume for big sales, for making money, you want that to last if you can. So, and you don't want to spend a lot for it. So they've spent.
You want the one in the commercial where the guy's standing on the other side of the room and he smells it.
Yeah, you don't want that. I don't want that.
I don't want that, but that's what they're showing the commercials.
And that's exactly. And so it's probably a combination of simplicity of the blend, because there are some essential oils that balance the impact of the fragrance on your skin or on when you smell them. Using, you know, more single molecules and a complex scent. So, yeah, and people ask me, okay, so which is better? And I always say it depends. How am I for time?
Is 20 after.
Okay.
I'm good.
So people always ask me, is it better, you know, synthetic perfumes or all natural? And it's really, if you do a thought exercise, the synthetic perfumes may be created from paper waste. They've developed a process where they can grow fungus, yeast in a vat that will produce a rosy scent or a pineapple flavor in the lab. You know, it's genetic engineering. They're very conscious of cost and impact and so on. And so your actual footprint may, in terms of energy and impact on the environment, may actually be less with synthetic perfumes. And the fragrance industry has become very, very aware of consumer preference. And they are really doing everything they can to go green through reusing waste products. Rice hulls make beautiful violet scent, for example, or vitamin D, vitamin E. I mean, you know, you can do all this because it's chemistry. Natural perfumes, less impact on your headaches and your allergies. They're beautiful, they're complex, they're artisan, and you are supporting growers, farmers who may have been doing this for 3 or 4 generations, growing roses in Bulgaria, or lavender in Provence, or sandalwood. But there's energy input. Sometimes there's a pesticide input. There's water use. They need fuel to do the distillation. So like I say, it's not, you know, synthetics are bad and naturals are good. It really depends on what you want to support. You know, you make the choice. Educate yourself. Figure it out. Yes.
Early on, you talked about taking notes and learning, and so I wonder, is there a standard language of describing things that's developed yet?
No.
No. Not like musical notation or Laban notation for dance or anything like that? Not yet.
A couple of my teachers have handed out a list of words to describe fragrance. And this is a really good question because this is part of why I wrote the book. A grease stick. Sort of herbal, sharp, not really very pretty. But what it really came down to as I read more and more is, oh, jasmine's floral. Roses are rosy. You know, sandalwood is woody. And so I was taking notes and trying to keep track of, you know, and some things you can describe if you think about outside of just the smell. You might describe jasmine as rich or luxurious or, I don't know, sensual. You know, there are ways. Cardamom, how many of you use cardamom to cook? Cardamom to me is sharp, it's pointy, but it's also got a little bit of pine scent. Sandalwood is exceedingly hard to describe, and I've got some here if you want to smell it. It's woody, and I read, you know, blogs and books, but it's also, some people have said urinous or milky. It smells like skin. To me, it's very much a skin tone. But it's also resinous. It's what's the word? Balsamic. Balsamic is a word you see a lot, and that's kind of a sweet vanilla resin smell. So there's not really, and I'll tell you one of the fun things is to take kids and have them smell stuff.
We got names for stuff, yeah.
Oh, stinky sneakers, or, you know, they'll just, and sometimes I'll try to do that, just, you know, personally, but, and I'm not a professionally trained perfumer. They may have ways of describing it.
This maybe answers my other thought, which is I wondered if it was likely that AI, artificial intelligence computer, would develop scents. You just type in what you want and they'll.
You know, they're
Sounds like
treading
no.
very carefully into AI. And if you think about, and if you look at pictures, professional perfumer in a big company will have, you know, shelves of little bottles of fragrance. And he might have citruses and herbs and woods. Single chemicals or proprietary blends. And so if somebody comes and says, I want a jasmine perfume with a cedar wood base. AI, and I'm just making this up off the top of my head, AI can theoretically say, okay, these, and these, and these, based on whatever program they put in. And then it would probably be up to the perfumer to say, okay, I like this and I like this. And then back and forth, if it's a big client, back and forth with the client. They're also trying to figure out how to get into the metaverse. Which is like,
So
yeah,
the next
right.
pop star that wants to have a scent and launch it, that they can't just go and say, this is what I want, and poof, it's a little more complicated.
It's a little more complicated than that, but basically that's kind of on a longer time scale. They would say, I want, gourmand. Does anybody know what gourmand is? Vanilla, sugary, pop star, sort of. And so they would have a set of, essences or molecules to start working on that perfume. And then there'd probably be some back and forth. You had a question?
I don't think this is what you're going to be talking about tonight, but I'm curious if it's in your book. You talk about terpenes, and I know there's other constituents.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, like, is there a certain, because of certain constituents, is that why they're better for perfume than for perhaps, I don't know, antibiotic properties or other properties that other constituents would bring to the table? So I'm curious.
I am of the opinion that everything is fair game when it comes to a perfume. Like I said, agarwood is a huge popular ingredient, and a lot of times it's very barnyardy. I was using it today and I was smelling it. But if you want interesting, if you want to give a certain feel, I was talking to somebody today who was trying to describe a leather perfume, which is popular with men, and one of the ingredients was birch tar, which is very smoky. It's made by burning distillation. I'm thinking, but she said, it really turned out beautiful with a almost not transparent, but this was a very good perfumer who.
I'm a huge fan of vetiver. I know that's one of those tar smelling for a lot of
People get
burn.
smoke from vetiver.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
I
do.
don't.
Yeah.
It's one of my very
But I love it.
favorites.
But I love it. But I'm just curious, am I drawn to that because of the scent, or am I drawn to that because of the constituents? That's what I guess my question is.
Yeah.
The answer
Again,
is
yes. Vetiver has actually, you've got terpenes, which have a ENE on the end, and it's carbon and hydrogen.
Okay.
You have alcohols, which may be the very same chemical structure but with an OH instead of the H. And vetiver has, I can't say it, vetiverol. It has some alcohols in it that I think make it really appealing. Vetiver is called the oil of tranquility. People use it to meditate.
Agreed.
Grounding, it's absolutely beautiful. And like I said, I don't get the smell from it.
I do, but I love that.
Especially if it's aged nicely. Yes.
I am so sorry. I'm embarrassed, but we're gonna have to go. My granddaughter and I, because my husband's waiting out there, and I hate to leave all of y'all. But we gotta go. But thank you so much.
Okay. Do you want me to sign a book?
I
Okay. That's
wish
fine.
I could say yes. I would feel much better about myself.
Well, then I will just give you some of my marketing material.
That would be wonderful.
And you can find me.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks for coming. I appreciate it.
It was our pleasure.
Thank you. Bye, y'all. Are you traveling?
Yes.
Well, I understand that.
And my husband and I have been married for 51 years. I'd like to be married longer.
I wanted to say about the vetiver. We lived a portion of our time and spent many years at home on the Mississippi coast, about an hour east of New Orleans, and vetiver grows well there. So I have grown it. I find it, to me, smells very clean.
Mhm.
And I used
The roots or the grass?
Well, I used the roots.
Okay.
The roots I use for sachets and things like that.
Yeah.
I've never tried to make a perfume out of it, although I have bought vetiver perfume.
Yeah.
But it all smells very clean. You know, the idea that it might be smoky or anything like.
That's the distillation.
Yeah, because
The-
it
yeah.
just smells very clean to me, and I like it a lot. To be honest.
The roots do have a very clean smell, and I've tinctured them in alcohol. But they use them in India to make window screens
Mm-hmm.
or different artwork, and
that
then
smells
can
good.
you imagine the wind,
Oh,
the air
yeah.
blowing through? And that's not smoky, it's the distillation process when you expose the roots to the heat. And, you know, you don't get the same chemicals out that are in the plant because they will be changed by the heat. Some, you know, get kind of better, and you have to know what you're doing. Vetiver has a long history with sugarcane.
Hmm.
The French, when they started growing sugarcane in Haiti, would bring vetiver because the roots can be 10 feet deep. And so they would plant those along the canals in the sugarcane. And because they were French, they picked the best smelling vetiver. So vetiver from Haiti is kind of the standard.
Do you grow a lot of your own plants? I mean, I would think, or you don't?
I don't. I grow orchids. Because if I were to use them for perfumery, you have to have so much. And this is kind of the other thing about essential oils. If you think about making lavender essential oil, for example, if you mow down an acre of lavender and distill it, you know, you might get a liter of essential oil, and that's totally guessing. But if you think about comparing tea, where you put a few leaves in a drink, to concentrating those essences so much, when people tell you to put it on your skin pure, don't do it. Dilute it, because you're taking what's in the plant and just concentrating it so much. And before I started doing perfumery, I trained as an aromatherapist, just so I would know, and before we did soap. And the recommended dilution is 2%. Because, you know, it's powerful medicine, it's powerful stuff.
What's the harm in not diluting it?
Sensitization mainly. If you put citrus, for example, there's two things that happen. It's photoreactive, and so you'll burn. Bergamot is really bad. Lime. There's a disease that bartenders get in the tropics for making margaritas. Margarita burns. They'll get burns on their skin because you want to come up? Because the oils react with the sun. And
On the deck.
with a lot of you know, little kids who eat limes and then run out in the sun will get blisters around their mouth. The other thing that happens, and this is where regulations on fragrance come in, is if you put them on your skin, you get a sensitization. You might get an allergic reaction, it'll come and go, it'll be itchy and then it'll be gone. But sometimes you develop a sensitivity to where you can never ever put that on your skin again without getting a reaction.
From a pure essential oil.
Oak moss will do it. Now, nobody ever uses oak moss, but I think any of them you would be in danger of doing that. Lavender is pretty safe. Sandalwood is safe. Patchouli is safe. Vetiver is safe.
Tea tree.
I think I've developed a sensitization to tea tree.
Really?
I haven't tried it for a while. I'm just really careful because it's not reversible.
So what do you dilute with then when you dilute for your perfumes?
Alcohol.
Just
Ethanol,
plain-
pure organic ethanol.
And for
Yeah.
creams and lotions, do you have?
I
a
buy
preference?
unscented lotion at like Whole Foods or somewhere. And what I tell people, olive oil works, coconut oil, whatever your moisturizer of choice, just put enough to fill your hand And then if you got the little orifice reducer, 3 or 4 or 5 drops, and you're good. You don't have to meticulously measure, but that's kind of my standard. Sherry.
So you can buy a lot of essential oils that go into diffusers, but those are not mixed with alcohol, right? What's the difference? I know we had, because I like the Mediatar, but since you diffuse that with alcohol, it won't work in the diffuser.
Right.
So what are they diffusing?
I think it's sometimes water works,
Just water and
but there's various, and I like dipropylene glycol or something,
I don't
some
know that-
viscous.
Yeah, I don't know that you'd wanna put anything else into the air, cause you're gonna breathe it in. So water is just like a humidifier, it's like a scented humidifier, but you get all the benefits of the essential oil inhaled.
Yeah, I would just use water
Yeah.
or, yeah. I don't know enough. I
Save it in
don't
candles.
do that because I don't want that much stuff in my air. Scented candles. You can do scented candles, or you can buy an unscented one and just add a few drops to the melted oil around the wick, and that gives you a tolerable, not overpowering amount. How am I?
36 minutes after, if you want to start with those smelling.
Okay, I'm gonna take one more minute and tell you about some of the uses for sandalwood. Sandalwood is a tree. It's the heartwood of the sandalwood that is used, and so you have to kill it, as with most plants. You have to kill it to get the benefit, which I really, I'm conflicted. Sandalwood is amazing by itself, but it's used in India traditionally to make what are called attars. They've got an old traditional distillation. They use clay pots and bamboo pipes. When you distill, you want to put your material in the retort. I don't know, the big boily thing. Yeah. You want to put it in the steam chamber, and you either pass steam through it or you'll add water, and you want to boil it. What the water does is it breaks down the vesicles in the scented material and allows them to rise with the steam. Well, in the steam, you've got the water and the essential oil, and so it rises, and then you want a condenser, and that condenses the drops of scented water along the sides, and it drips into a receiver. With sandalwood, it's a leather container. It can, you'll see big stainless steel or glass, and essential oils are called that because they float on top. They're not an oil, but they float on top. They're not dissolvable in water. Now, the water sometimes contains some of the fragrant chemicals. Do you know what that's called? Hydrosol. If you've seen that, or hydrolat or floral water. Rose is one of the few products that you get an essential oil, but you also get a beautiful rose water, or orange blossoms.
Does lavender do that?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Lavender hydrosol is really nice, really
Yeah.
pretty.
Okay.
And some people will sell the hydrosol in addition to the lavender. So then you get the oil and the water, and that's how it works. In India, they've been doing this for thousands of years, and what they found is that some of the really delicate flowers work really well if you distill them into the sandalwood. Sandalwood is soft, it's supportive, it's gentle, and so you get a rose attar. This is what are called attars. Jasmine, it's a champaka, a little orange. Anyway, there's a whole variety of attars. One of the most interesting and special one is called Miti attar, and I brought some for you to smell. And it's made by at a village in Kannauj, India. They've been doing this for thousands of years. And their ponds, they feel, during the dry season, collect the fragrance of the soil and of the surrounding vegetation. As the ponds dry down, that clay that lines the ponds is harvested. They harvest bricks, and then they distill the bricks. And that gives you the smell of rain, because the monsoons give you the same effect. After the dry season, you get the monsoon. Well, they distill the smell of rain, and I brought some today. And I brought jasmine and rose and yellow mandarin. I brought some vanilla beans to smell, whatever, we'll just, any more questions, and then we'll just smell stuff if you want. Or if you need to go somewhere, you can do that too. I won't be insulted. But you have to give me a hug. Not really. Thank you for coming. Appreciate
I just want to
it.
get inside that boundary to smell what other perfume you have out. That's what you said. It's not for me over here. It's but.
Well, maybe that's why she hugged you. She wanted to know what you smelled.
I actually was putting all that together, so I've got a little, and I changed my clothes. I don't know if I smell like it. But we've got a lot of essential oils in the house. I keep them put away because, again, you want to control the amount you smell. But every time I send a package to my daughter and my grandkids, they say, "Oh, it's from Grandma Lisi. It smells like her."
Oh, that's sweet.
So I bought a couple of wool hats for them because they're out in Utah and they go skiing, and so I put them in my essential oil closet so that smell.
Let's do smell.
Okay.
Smell party.
Yeah. And I'm here. I'll be over there to answer any questions or.
Should we go sit around there? What should we do?
However you want to do it. I don't. You can go walk over and smell, or I'll show you. Well, Sherry knows.
Yeah.